All right, guys, it's time to play. We need to experiment with these things. Divs are amazing in one thing. The one thing that really makes them powerful and that everybody wants to use them is their ability to slap something into an HTML document and lock it to that position. We've never really had that kind of control, even with tables before, to lock things on the screen. Now, there's 5 different ways we can lock it on the screen, if you remember the PowerPoint presentation that we did. Unless you slept through that, those can get pretty boring. We're going to explore a little bit by playing, but really that isn't the best word to use, playing, because if you go to your boss and say, I'm going to play with Dreamweaver for a while, so leave me alone, and then you get fired, you're in the unemployment queue, and I'm to blame. So we're going to use a different term here. We're going to call it skill development through experimentation. That sounds a whole lot better to me. Start with a new document. Go up to the word File and click New. In New, we're going to go to Blank Page, HTML, None. Now, I know I use a lot of these, and we could go into these templates, and these templates are locked div statements. I don't mind you running through these things because one of the greatest ways that you can figure out how something works is by looking at what somebody else did. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that's what I do with you, then the whole thing's already taken care of, and I'm just explaining what somebody else did. We do things from scratch in these lessons, and I think you get more out of it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there is a button down here for getting more content. If you don't like what's up here and you want more, you can click that button. And what that does for you is it sends you to the Adobe site in Exchange, and basically you can find all kinds of stuff. Anything you need is probably going to be out there, but if you can do it yourself, there's nothing wrong with that either. So we are going back to None, and we are going to click the Create button. Here we go. Tabula Rasa, blank slate. There are 2 buttons up here. There's a div and there's an AP div. Now, the AP div is a statement that I've worn out using it so much, but I'm going to be honest with you. That particular way of applying things to an HTML page, absolute positioning, is becoming obsolete. And that might make some of you sad because you say, well, I use it so much. This one's better to work with, but like I said, we're just playing. So let's go ahead and open this one up. Click it and then just drag on the screen. Now, what you're creating is what's called an AP, an absolutely positioned div. If you come over here and grab the handle, you can move it anywhere you want. If you get in here, you can type, you can add graphics, you can do, like I said, anything. We can go over here to CSS styles and click this button right here and get into that div as a style and begin padding it. A lot of things we're going to do. I can put these particular statements inside of each other. So I could have a really big one for the background and have all my other stuff like my headers and bodies and footers in other ones. It was a great way to work. So why are they becoming obsolete? It's just my opinion. But I think they're becoming obsolete because, number one, the browsers don't position them exactly like we see them sometimes. And so you're going to get things off a little bit and it won't be exactly what you want. The div statement, not absolutely positioning it using things like fixed or relative, is a better way to work. But they're a little bit more difficult to figure out how they work. That's the problem. So let's go ahead and get rid of this one. Let's just delete it. We don't need it anymore. Let's come over here and just click this button. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a box that says, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to insert it at the insertion point or before or after the particular tag? Now, we're on the body tag right now. We're going to say insertion point because that visibly is just right here. You can assign it a class if you already have one. We don't have any yet, like a container class or one that you make up. And you can give it a specific ID, like we could call this div. We already have actually one over here. That's for the one we already created. Let's just call this div 2. We can apply a rule to it right now, but we're not going to. What we're just going to do is click OK. Okay, there you go. Content for ID div 2 goes here. Now, you'll notice you can't move it, you can't drag it, you can't do anything to it. And if I put more content in here, select all that text, I'll do a Control-C copy, and then I'm going to do a paste. Okay, just to give you an example of what's going on here. Go ahead and save it so we can look at it. So we'll go up to the word File and say Save. And we'll call it Playtime. We're not really going to keep this one for very long. Put it in Pages. Why don't we follow our rules here and do this organizationally? We'll put it in Pages and click Save. Now click your little globe and choose your poison, as I say. If I go to Safari, and there it is. Okay, but the problem is, you say, well, Andy, I can't move it on the page, but it's doing the same thing we've been doing for X number of chapters. It's floating. Okay, we're going to control it to stop all of that, and you're going to love these things once we work with them. But the problem with them is most people are so used to working with this one, where you can draw and you can make it and you can drag it anywhere you want to, that they've kind of looked the other way when it wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be in another browser. Because when you look at these, unless you really know how to control them, and that's through CSS styles, they're difficult to manage because you can't move them, they're locked to the screen, but believe me, they're a better way to work. So playtime is over. I just wanted to introduce you to these two things. They're fun to work with. We're going to get serious. Now we can close this document. You don't have to save it again. We don't need it anymore. And in the next segment, what we're going to do is get a little bit more serious about creating something using divs. I think you're going to like it.